Welcome back, everybody. Just Mike here. Glad you could make it back. Today we have a New England clock company grandfather wall clock to work on. And as you saw the pictures just before this is how I found it on my porch. Amazing. Anyway, before I show you the movement, because the clock is so big and so heavy, that I'd like you to subscribe because it's free, and give me a thumbs up because I'd appreciate that also. Anyway, let's take a look at the movement. So this is the movement, and all these white things. It's a wonderful thing to pack a clock, especially as big as this clock is. This clock was wrapped in bubble wrap, but I have a ton of this, and it's all over in my room. I brought the box outside, so it's scattered across the lawn, which I don't know why it kept falling out, but I got tons of this stuff. I wish this was the stuff that as soon as it gets rained on it melts, but I'm not sure that happens. Anyway, on this clock, I only paid $22 for it, not counting shipping. And as large as this clock is, I'm surprised they actually shipped it. Anyway, this clock needs cleaned. I mean, roughly speaking, it doesn't look too bad here. You can see it's got some dirt in it, but once you start looking at the top, that's where your dirt's really setting in. How long, I don't even know if this clock ran. Did it finally quit or what? But we have some cleaning to do. This here also has, as you see, these strings pulling on there. That there's meant for when you want to stop the time side here. When you want to stop the count of the hour, you have the string here that you can pull, and there's a nail or hook inside the case that once you pull it, it pulls these back and it will not gong anymore. And that's the same with the Westminster side. It's got the bar too to pull them back, so you don't have to listen to them. Now these hammers all got bent up because when they shoved the bubble wrap inside here, they weren't too careful, and everything is kind of crammed to the inside of the clock. So all that's going to have to be adjusted when I put this back together again. This has a slip clutch. And whether these numbers mean anything to you or not, I'm sure what they are patent numbers, I do believe. And over here, it just tells you it's a New England clock company. So let me figure out what I want to do first. Obviously, what I want to do first is take pictures of my movement, take pictures of the back side, the front side, and with the hour shaft down, this is the way I'm going to take my pictures into the clock, so I can see just where each of the gears go. And when we take the back off, I'm going to try to be careful and keep all the gears where they're at, and so I can lift this off and take a picture straight down to see the gears even better than just looking through here. Just looking through here is a great way to see your gears and maybe the placement of them or whatever. But sometimes you miss something and it's nice to look straight down. We're going to be stripping all this off the clock before we start taking it apart. And so that's why you want to take pictures of that as well if you plan on taking one of these apart. I also wanted to mention it only came with 2 of the finials. There's 2 more that's supposed to match these. And I'm missing 1 piece of wood trim that goes underneath the finial. It comes with the rods, and these are kind of bent up, as you can kind of see how these 2 really spread down. So those are going to have to be straightened a little bit so it fits in the case better, and also make it easier possibly to get the hammers to hit this, even though the hammers are hitting right about this area. So on this movement, these 2 brackets don't make any difference, because as far as I can see, they don't hold on to anything. The only thing that's holding on are the 2 screws or bolts that go through here and pull the frame down to the wood. So I'm not going to worry as much about the placement of those, but we'll go ahead and start here and start taking the hammers off. And in your picture you should see where the spring is. The spring fits on here, and it's got that loop on there. You're going to catch this, drop that down, catch the spring on it, and then this just lightly goes around the bar. I'll take these nuts off, but I can't get this off yet because this here needs to be taken off. And this here, where it's screwed on down here, right here is holding on to each one of the hammers so it hits the right tension, I guess we'll say, or the right amount of hit. Took the 1 screw out. This is the 2nd screw. And we'll have to look to see exactly how to get this off. Might be just the springs. Before I lose my screw, the springs have to be just disconnected off of here. Anyway, we got the nuts off of here, and so now the drum's going to come out of here too, more than likely. It's shaking. And I see each one of these hammers, well, maybe not. Let's say each one of these hammers has something that separates it. We'll have to take a look at that, see how these things separate. And there's our gear that has the teeth on there that tells us how to play the Westminster. And we'll wait on that. And screw this thumb screw so we can get the spring wire out. And this is going to take a screwdriver to pop that gear out. And each of these has got an E-clip. And you notice this has got the 2 wires on it for the side that plays the Westminster. This one only has a single wire on it. And let's go ahead and remove this, being how it's removable. So we can put it in last. Which makes it nice because that way you have less chances of damaging it. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and put my 2 screws back in there because I'm ending up with a lot of screws and I don't want to get them mixed up. I just left my legs on there, no biggie at the moment. Anyway, now we can take off everything that's going to be, that I can take off, I'll put it that way. Let's go ahead and start with this E-clip. I'm going to take this E-clip off because right now we can't get the snail off. This has got a permanent barrel on it. Now's a good time because you can see a spring here, so you can see where it's attached. Take a picture of it. It holds on top here, right there, comes around and holds on the bottom right there. So now we got our picture. Let's go ahead and take this E-clip off here. Let's see if we can get that spring off before it decides to go shooting somewhere. See, it's kind of stuck. There we go. As I say, it's good to clean your parts because like that's not wanting to come up. It might have still worked, but I just didn't clean underneath it when I can. Now this here has a screw. Get my other screwdriver. See if it'll fit in there yet. And you notice that lever's down inside here, so that might be a good reference point of where it should stop. And that lever right down there catches right there. And what that lever might do, my guess is, because they are kind of separated, is that would tell the clock possibly when it's 12 o'clock. And to strike the hour. But this here should be the part that tells it to strike the hour because it has that bump there, and that bump should make it do its little extra lift, causing it to drop onto the snail another lever and then count the hour. This one here, you see no clip on it. That's because it has a screw down here. This one here, and you'll notice two places here. This one here that has a groove in it is where this goes. That one there looks like it's just a stop or something. And this lever here on the back side, it has a E-clip. And obviously that there's probably to catch a warning pin. So this here is what you kind of want to watch a little bit, because when you undo this, actually it's probably this one here, they need to be teamed up together. So take a picture of the location of this and this together. Like try to take a picture from the side going in so you can get a better idea. You're going to have to turn this over to see what's causing this to stop. Boy, that's hard to turn when because this takes pretty big weights too. So let me get my picture taken sideways kinda, then we'll go from there. So this one, you'd have to adjust to catch that through the frame there, catch the lever. There's only one that has a screw on that keeps it snug, but not so snug that it won't work or won't move. So I'd say we pretty much have everything off. I'm not too concerned about the warning pin, although I guess I could take it off because some people have a cowl that I didn't. So let's carefully take this off. These might be too small, but what these are for is they're angled, and that will help cause this to come up. I just squeeze it. I think I'm going to leave it. If you break that thing, you got to find another one. It's not moving at all. There's a chance I could put oil on the shaft here, and it might eventually work in and whatnot, but I'm not too concerned about it. Let's go ahead and take our nuts off and open up this frame. Now when we open this frame, we know this gear here is going to come up and this gear here is going to come up. and maybe a few others. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push them down when I see them coming up. And I might not catch them all, but hopefully I can get them back in their place. Most of them are lifting up because of this. So we got it up. Most of our gears fell out. So I'm going to try to put them back the way they were. And then we can take a picture again. And the way I'm going to do is look at my pictures when I had the plate sideways. So I messed up. Yes, the nuts are over here. But realistically, this needs, let's say, goes down on it this way. And so, actually I should have pulled this plate off because of the way all these gears that don't come out fit. And so now I have it. It took me a while because I was looking at my pictures upside down, and when I finally got my head together and making sure everything fits, moves together the way it's supposed to, well, as far as I know, everything touches. As in the gears. So now's a good time, now that you have it back together again, or I do, now's the time to take several pictures again. Let's go ahead and take this apart. This here would be the strike side that counts the hour because of this star shape, I guess we'll call it. This is a fan that controls the speed of how fast it will gong. Underneath here is, and which is normally connected to your fan or your governor, as it would be called, as it slows the movement down in order to gong nicely instead of like a machine gun. So they're usually connected together, but there's your warning pin. That one's, I do believe, is connected to the Pac-Man. When you see these heavier gears, you know it goes somewhere around here. Down inside here is another gear that has a E-clip on it that transfers this over to that, over to this. So that needs to be taken off. Always test your clicker. Make sure this thing's working, especially if this clock's new to you. It does feel quite stiff right now, but once I clean this, maybe I can lube it up and make it a little bit easier. So that's one set out of the way, with the exception of those two. Over here would be, should be your Westminster side. Of course, your governor. Right there's a pin. There's another pin, your warning pins. This here has the bigger gear on it that comes from this, in which will transfer over to that bigger gear. Feels the same on stiffness. It's not super hard or anything. And like I say, this clock does take some heavy weights. Then this should be your time. This one here will stay because it goes to, it's your hour and minute hand. There's your heavy gear again to give you a hint. They all turn the same tension, I guess I'll call it. But just saying, we're going to clean all of these. We'll take this out. Take the E-clip off. And there you go. Doesn't make any difference which way it goes on, just a transfer gear. So we have these two left on there. I'm not concerned about them. Now I'm going to go ahead and clean them. And you can see the, let's say, dingy color this is. I'm pretty sure this has a lacquer finish on it. I'm going to probably leave it in there for maybe 10 minutes and see what it looks like. But if the finish starts coming off, I'm not going to worry about it, because this is, you never see the movement. But this is a dull gold or brass color, and with that old oil and whatnot, I'd like to get that cleaned up. And so if this does have a finish on it, I will go ahead and get it off and wax it, or I should say polish it, and then give it a wax so it doesn't leave fingerprints. But before I put it in my cleaner, I'm going to go ahead the toothpick and clean these holes out, because that old oil is just sitting in there and nasty. And why dirty up my cleaner? When I put in the cleaner, this very end didn't go in, and so it left that yuck, and I polished it out there, but not so well around the nut. But you can see how shiny the one end is, and this is what's left of maybe the finish. And like I say, this wasn't a very pretty movement because it was so dirty and yucky looking. And this shine, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's shinier than what it was. So I did 1/2 with Mother's, 1/2 with the Cinechrome. The Cinechrome is harder to get off, let's just say, but it actually did a better job. I know it doesn't show up on camera, but I can see like this has still got a little bit of a mist of tarnish down under or something. Like I say, that one cleans up a lot easier. You have to keep changing your rag, but this one here you definitely have to keep changing your rag so you can get it off. Oh no, not that side. So as you can see, I got tons of parts, especially this one. What a heart attack. Most of these are the outside of the clock, so let's just say we can get rid of this basket. This looks terrible, but once you remove these, the hammers, that's what goes inside the clock. So let's set that aside. I put the hammers in with the gears because there's a lot of room. Set those aside. And so now the gears are starting to become less and less. Anyway, as you can see, I've got them all shined up. I will admit, for a little secret, let's just call it, because this is a Westminster, you have Westminster, you have the time, and you have the count of the hour sides on here, or the trains as they call it. And so, because some of these gears look so close to other gears, I decided to set each one of the trains in a different basket and clean them. So now what I'll do is get out my phone and start trying to put this thing back together again. In here on my phone, I got the final picture, to be able to do just that. A little change in my gears. So this would go up through where it's supposed to be. There we go. Now to get them all back into the bushings. So I've wiggled them all up and down, make sure I had end shake, but also, just in case you missed it, you can turn where the weights are, or winder, and if you got things turning, let's just say, that tells me you don't have anything bound up. But to know whether this is in time or not, I'm going to have to get my levers on, because they have to go in there and stop the warning pin, and I need to know whether they're stopping at the right place or not. So what's nice about timing a grandfather movement, a Westminster movement, whatever, everything is actually on the outside. You do have your warning pins. They go to these levers on the outside, and as you're putting these on, the warning pins start working with the levers, and you can kind of figure out where to set this, in which this one here I've got it set now, so the hour will go next on the Westminster, and it's got this bump here. This bump here turns this one on, or makes it set to ring, and right now I've got it set up. Yeah, I'm not counting what's on there right now. I got it set up right now that it will drop, or when it drops at 12 o'clock, I want to make sure this clears my snail, because it's kind of hard to see just what's going on, I guess we'll put it that way. So I'll push this under pressure, and let's relieve this of its duties. There, it's off. So here we go. We're triggering it to play the full Westminster right now. It's coming up to the hump to turn the other side on. And let's count after it starts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And it shuts off. Now I want to look at my rod down here, just where it's hitting, and I need to move it one tooth because this little pin here is dragging all along the edge of that. So to move it one tooth, I'll lift it up. I'm moving it one tooth on this right here. I'll lift this up, move it back one. And there it clears it pretty good. You don't have much play, we'll say, in between here. And so I have it so it clears this pretty good. And so what I can do now is go ahead and get my E-clip on here, get my E-clip on there, and figure out where the rest of the stuff goes. By my pictures, of course. So I got my levers on except the top cap here. When you're doing your Westminster to see if it's right, you'd turn the bigger gear here. You don't have it screwed, let's say, screwed down yet. And you'd watch these hammers to understand possibly the sound of what they're supposed to make, or you won't hear the sound, you'll be watching its beat. And I'm going to more than likely have to figure that out once I get this on here. Well, I'm going to have to wait until I get this on here and see if I can see a full, what I would consider dun 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 dun, or something of that sort. I'm an excellent singer. I should get a contract. So I think I'm off on how this plays, and realistically I'm not going to know until I get it back in the clock and have it actually hit the gong rods that it's supposed to be hitting, to be able to listen to it and see if it sounds right. So we don't have the middle weight because I ordered the end and they marked it, but it's not shipped. Now in the last one, the gong for the hour is going to start early because this is set right now that it actually started ramping up the hammers, and it should have been back further. But we're done with it for now. So I hope you appreciated this video on this New England Clock Company wall grandfather clock. As you saw, hopefully, how I had to polish the weights because they're destroyed. I didn't mind at all scratching them down with the green scratchy pad and try to bring back some of the lust with the polish, and it worked well compared to just the polish alone and not stripping it all the way down. Like I say, these weights have been sitting in water, and I was amazed on how well these things cleaned up. And for the gong for the hour going off just before it's supposed to, that was the warning pin moving, and it was set so close, the hammers are already up, and they went ahead and dropped. So I'm going to have to take the movement back out and readjust that so it sounds perfect. Anyway, I hope you subscribed because of this channel, and just remember, it's free, and give me a thumbs up, I'd appreciate that too. And until next time, God bless.